You know, I love talking about Caitlyn Clark on this show, and she participated in some kind of LPGA Pro-Am, drew monster crowds. There's pictures of just like everybody trying to get an autograph with Caitlyn Clark.
You know what's wild? Every single time Caitlyn Clark shows up somewhere, she doesn't just draw attention, she creates a full-blown cultural moment. And now it's happening again, because after giving the WNBA one of the most electrifying rookie seasons in history, she suddenly popped up at an LPGA Pro-Am, and the scene was insane. Fans were rushing just to get autographs, cameras flashing from every angle, and media outlets scrambling to cover it. And while critics are calling her move a betrayal of women's basketball, the reality is Caitlyn Clark has managed to dominate two completely different worlds in less than 8 months, smashing records on the court, rewriting expectations off it, and now shaking up the golf world to the point where entire networks are rearranging their programming just to capture her teeing off. So the real question is this: how did one young star turn herself into the most powerful force across women's sports? And why are so many people furious about it? Let's rewind for a second, because to really understand why Caitlyn Clark's crossover into golf has everyone talking, you've got to go back to the beginning of this year when the so-called Caitlyn Clark effect was just starting to explode. Before she even touched a WNBA court, the moment she declared for the draft ticket sales across the league skyrocketed by nearly 90% compared to the season before. Merchandise was flying off the shelves, and suddenly, Indiana Fever games that used to struggle to fill seats were turning into packed arenas with people traveling hours just for the chance to see her play live. And once she actually stepped onto the hardwood, she didn't just live up to the hype, she smashed it, averaging 19 points a game, scoring in double figures almost every night, and then making history by becoming the first rookie ever to knock down over 100 three-pointers and rack up more than 300 assists in a single season. Numbers so ridiculous that NBA analysts didn't even hesitate before calling her a generational talent. But what really set her apart wasn't just the stats, it was the spectacle. Every Fever game felt like an event. The cameras followed her every move, kids were holding up signs with her name, and suddenly, women's basketball had a brand new superstar who was bigger than the league itself. But here's the thing, Caitlyn's rise wasn't just about her filling arenas or breaking records, it was about changing the way people looked at the entire WNBA. Because for the first time in years, casual sports fans who never bothered with women's basketball were suddenly buying tickets, tuning into broadcasts, and following every highlight on social media just to catch a glimpse of her. And the league had a golden opportunity to make her the face of the WNBA, to market her as the star who could carry women's basketball into a new era, yet somehow they fumbled that chance. While Caitlyn was drawing record crowds, lifting television ratings to levels nobody thought possible, and even getting mainstream coverage usually reserved for the NBA, the league itself stayed cautious, slow, and hesitant to fully embrace the moment. And that hesitation is exactly what opened the door for the LPGA. Because when Clark showed up on a golf course, the golf world didn't waste a second. They rolled out the red carpet, paired her with the #1 player in the world, and immediately turned her appearance into a headline-making event, proving they were ready to do what the WNBA couldn't capitalize on her star power without holding back. When Caitlyn Clark arrived at the Pelican Golf Club for her LPGA debut, it was obvious from the very first swing that this wasn't just another athlete trying out a new hobby. This was a crossover spectacle, the kind of moment that pulls in fans who don't even watch golf and suddenly makes them care. Because Clark wasn't paired with just anyone, the LPGA put her side by side with world #1 Nelly Korda, a move that instantly turned the Pro-Am into a must-see event. And the anticipation was unreal. Ticket sales spiked, the gallery was packed shoulder to shoulder before sunrise, and television networks literally shifted their programming schedules just to cover her teeing off live, something that has almost never happened for a women's golf event. And as she walked the fairway with cameras trailing and fans screaming her name, it became clear that her star power doesn't stop at the three-point line. She was turning a golf tournament into the same kind of sold-out show she created in basketball, proving to everyone that the Caitlyn Clark effect is bigger than any single league. The reaction was instant and overwhelming because the moment Caitlyn Clark teed off, the entire golf world seemed to stop and take notice. Fans were running from hole to hole just to keep up with her. Autograph lines stretched longer than the ones for actual tournament champions. And social media blew up with clips of her swing that racked up millions of views in hours. Even Nelly Korda, the #1 golfer in the world who shared the spotlight with her, couldn't hide her admiration, calling Caitlyn sweet, humble, and an unbelievable influence who brought an entirely new crowd to the course. And it wasn't just players giving her credit. LPGA executives and media outlets were quick to label her debut as a historic marketing win, with Golf Channel dedicating live coverage to her every move, something unheard of for a pro-am. And in that moment, Caitlyn Clark wasn't just a basketball rookie anymore. She was a two-sport phenomenon whose presence elevated women's golf overnight, and left insiders wondering if the WNBA had just missed its biggest chance to celebrate her the way she deserves. But with all the praise came the backlash, because while the LPGA was busy celebrating Caitlyn Clark like a once-in-a-generation star, whispers of frustration started boiling over in the WNBA. Insiders claimed that league officials and even some players were irritated by how quickly golf embraced her and stole the spotlight. Critics began framing her crossover as a betrayal of women's basketball, accusing her of chasing fame instead of staying loyal to the game that made her a star. And social media lit up with heated debates between fans who saw her as a trailblazer and detractors who painted her as abandoning the WNBA too soon. The irony, though, is impossible to ignore. Her presence has done more to elevate women's sports as a whole than almost anyone in recent memory. Yet, instead of celebrating her rise, some voices are focused on tearing her down. And this divide between admiration and resentment is exactly what makes the Caitlyn Clark effect so explosive. It's bigger than sports. It's about loyalty, ambition, and who gets to control the narrative of women's athletics. What most people don't realize is that Caitlyn's dominance on the golf course didn't just come out of nowhere. Long before she was breaking records in the WNBA, she was already swinging clubs as a kid. Growing up in Iowa, she often split time between basketball courts and golf ranges, and those early experiences built a foundation that made her LPGA debut look far from accidental, because when she stepped onto the fairway, it wasn't a rookie experiment, it was muscle memory. The same competitive fire that fueled her on the hardwood was now driving her to drain long putts under pressure, and it showed. Golf legends like Zach Johnson even recalled how Caitlyn had played in high-profile pro events before, proving that she's been serious about the game for years. So, while critics tried to label her appearance as a publicity stunt, the reality is much different. Clark has been preparing for this moment her whole life. And if anything, she's showing the world that her crossover isn't a distraction from basketball, it's an extension of the drive and talent that make her unstoppable in any sport she touches. Caitlyn's leap into golf didn't just shake up two leagues, it exposed a much bigger truth about the way women's sports are promoted and valued. Because the LPGA wasted no time turning her into a headline attraction, while the WNBA hesitated and now finds itself overshadowed by a rookie who should have been their ultimate selling point. And this isn't just about one player, it's about an entire shift in power. Networks, sponsors, and fans are realizing that a single superstar with crossover appeal can generate attention at a level leagues have struggled to create for decades. And Caitlyn is proving it in real time. The fact that her presence at a golf event drew bigger crowds and media coverage than some championship-level tournaments should be a wake-up call. It shows that women's sports are evolving faster than the organizations behind them, and unless the WNBA figures out how to fully embrace its biggest star, it risks being left behind while golf and other sports step in to ride the wave of the Caitlyn Clark effect. Now, the question everyone's asking is what comes next? Because Caitlyn Clark isn't just dabbling in golf for fun. Her performance and the response she generated have already sparked rumors of potential LPGA contracts, sponsorship expansions, and even whispers that she could pursue a two-sport career the same way legends like Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders once did on the men's side. And while she insists basketball remains her top priority, the way golf fans embraced her has created pressure the WNBA can't ignore. Insiders say rival leagues like Athletes Unlimited are already circling, hoping to lure her with bigger paychecks and more freedom. And that leaves the WNBA facing a dangerous reality if they can't keep Caitlyn front and center. She could easily become the face of another sport entirely. Imagine the fallout if the league's brightest star spends her off-season elevating golf instead of building the Fevers brand. It's a scenario that has sponsors thrilled, critics panicking, and fans debating whether Caitlyn is reshaping women's sports for the better or slowly stepping away from basketball altogether. At the end of the day, Caitlyn Clark has become more than just a rookie sensation. She's a force that is rewriting the rules of women's sports. On the court, she shattered records and turned Indiana Fever games into sellout shows. And now on the golf course, she's drawing crowds bigger than some LPGA championships, proving her influence stretches far beyond basketball. But the controversy around her rise shows the battle that still exists between leagues too cautious to celebrate their stars and organizations bold enough to seize the moment. The Caitlyn Clark effect is no longer just about points, assists, or highlight reels. It's about shifting the balance of power in sports and redefining what's possible for women athletes. So the real question isn't whether Caitlyn Clark can dominate in two different arenas. She's already doing that. The real question is whether the WNBA will step up and embrace her before she takes her empire somewhere else. What do you think? Is Caitlyn reshaping women's basketball for the better or slowly drifting toward another game? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this unbelievable story.